Okay, let's get into this. Today we are doing a deep dive into, well, a truly fascinating and sometimes pretty unsettling world. We're looking at excerpts from Oliver Sacks' classic work, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat.
It's such a landmark book. And these aren't just, medical
Oh,
curiosity.
exactly. Our mission here is really to pull out the core ideas Sacks was exploring about. Well, about us, about what makes up a coherent self when you look at these really extreme neurological conditions.
That's absolutely it. Sachs himself called it the neurology of identity. Sometimes he used the term romantic science. His whole point was that we don't really understand the mind when everything's running smoothly.
Right, it's when things break down.
Precisely. It's the breakdowns, the neurological catastrophes that give us a glimpse into how our identity is actually built, physiologically.
Hmm.
Sachs wanted to move beyond just the what, the diagnosis, and focus on the who, the person fighting to stay whole.
And he structured it so brilliantly, didn't he? Not just by illness, but by these bigger themes. We're going to follow his map. First, the things we can lose, then the things we can have too much of, and finally, what we learn from those, often labeled as simple. So let's start right in the deep end. The title case. Dr. P. This is the man who, well, mistook his wife for a hat. He had visual agnosia.
Yeah, and visual agnosia, it's not just poor eyesight. It's like the meaning drains out of what you see.
Yeah.
For Dr. P, the visual world became impersonal, abstract.
He could see shapes, right, like perfectly well.
Instantly. Sachs mentions he could identify complex geometric shapes like platonic solids, a dodecahedron, boom, no problem. But faces, even his own family, nothing. He treated them like abstract puzzles he had to solve.
It's that literalness that's so jarring, trying to put his foot on thinking it was his shoe. And that moment, reaching for his wife's head like a hat.
It's chilling. And it wasn't blindness. He could describe things meticulously. A rose was a convoluted red form with the linear green attachments.
Pure data, no roseness.
Exactly. Just features. He only knew it was a rose when Sachs got him to smell it. Then suddenly, beautiful. An early rose. What a heavenly smell. The connection was made, but not through sight.
In this case, right away, it threw a wrench into the standard neurological thinking of the time.
Absolutely. The old idea was that brain damage always pushes people toward the emotional, the concrete, makes them less abstract.
But Dr. P flipped that completely.
He did the exact opposite. He lost the concrete, the personal, the meaningful in his visual world, and was left only with the abstract. Sachs argued this was a catastrophic failure of judgment. Not calculation, but judgment, the ability to tell what's real, what's meaningful.
He couldn't judge that a head isn't a hat. That fundamental connection was just gone.
Computationally, he was fine. But the coherence, the meaning, the reality of the visual world, shattered.
Okay, so that's losing your anchor in visual space. Let's shift to losing your anchor in, well, in time, memory, which Sachs reminds us, quoting Buñuel, is really what makes our lives.
Right. And if Dr. P shows the self unmoored visually, Jimmy G, the lost mariner, is the self lost in time. Korsakoff syndrome. Jimmy was incredibly sharp, charming even.
But stuck, right, stuck in the past.
Completely stuck in 1945. He had crystal clear memories of the Navy, Morse code, ship names, everything up to the end of the war. Vivid.
But anything after that.
Gone. Within minutes. You could have a whole conversation with him, talk about the moon landing, walk out, come back 2 minutes later.
And like you never met.
Never met. He was trapped, as Sachs described it, in this constantly changing, meaningless moment. Sort of human being, just pure flux, no thread connecting one moment to the next.
But, and this is key, Sachs found something deeper survive, didn't he? It wasn't a total erasure.
That's the crucial, really humane observation. Intellectually, historically, he was lost, but Sachs saw him find moments of continuity and reality, especially in things like music or attending chapel, moments of feeling, of engagement.
So the narrative was gone, but the person wasn't entirely...
Exactly. Sachs concluded Jimmy still had feeling, will, sensibility, moral being. Memory is vital, obviously, but maybe it's not the only thing that constitutes the self. Something else, something maybe more fundamental, endured.
That's actually quite hopeful. Okay, let's move from those external anchors sight time to an internal one. The body's own sense of itself. Proprioception.
Yeah, the secret sense, or the sixth sense, as Sachs calls it. That unconscious awareness of where your body parts are, what they're doing.
And this brings us to Christina, the disembodied lady.
A truly harrowing case. She lost proprioception completely due to polyneuropathy. Basically, her brain's parietal lobes had no input about her body's state.
So she felt what, like her body wasn't hers.
She described it as feeling dead, not real, not hers. Like the body was blind and deaf to itself. An internal disconnection that's hard for us to even fathom.
And the result was that everything we do automatically, she had to do consciously.
Painfully, consciously. She had to use her eyes constantly to monitor and control every single movement. Sitting down, holding a cup, standing still. Imagine having to visually guide your hand to your mouth for every bite.
Utterly exhausting.
Beyond exhausting. It required this immense, continuous effort just to maintain posture. If she closed her eyes, Sachs said her limbs would just wander. Her body would sort of collapse without that visual feedback.
And the source material really highlights the social aspect, too. This wasn't just a private struggle.
Oh, absolutely. Because her movements, controlled visually, looked unnatural, forced, clumsy, maybe theatrical.
So people didn't understand.
They didn't. Sachs recounts people snarling at her. "What's wrong with you, lady? Are you blind or blind drunk?" It's that tragedy of the hidden disability. The internal loss creates external misunderstanding and isolation.
That shift from the physical loss to the existential and social pain, it leads us nicely into Sachs' next big category. Not just losses, but sometimes the brain does too much. The excesses.
Exactly. These are disorders where there's an overstimulation, a kind of neurological overflow. And sometimes, paradoxically, it leads to this strange, morbid brilliance, as Sachs puts it. Disease isn't always about subtraction.
A key example he gives is Witty T.C. Ray, Tourette's syndrome.
Right. Ray had these violent tics, the sudden jerks, involuntary curses. Fuck. Shit. Tourette's involves this excess energy, this sort of boiling over in the older parts of the brain, the limbic system.
And Ray felt it as a kind of internal battle, didn't he?
Very much so. He felt this war between the I, his conscious self, and the it, the compulsive organic force of the tics. He actually feared, "I consist of tics, there'd be nothing left if they were cured." A real existential dread.
But he found a way to manage it, to integrate it almost.
He did. Sachs describes how Ray channeled that incredible speed and almost improvisational energy that came with the Tourette's. He became a fantastic jazz drummer, specifically playing percussion.
So the energy found an outlet.
A creative, constructive outlet. It allowed him, as Sachs said, to be not incorrigibly centered on his own disease. The narrative changed. The excess became part of his skill, not just his affliction.
And then there's a case that's almost darkly funny. Natasha K. and Cupid's disease.
Yeah. Late-stage neurosyphilis hitting her at 90 years old. And instead of dementia or decline, it caused this sudden euphoria, this almost inappropriate friskiness and lack of inhibition.
She felt too good.
Hilariously, yes.
Yeah.
She diagnosed herself, apparently saying something like, "I'm feeling too well, you have to be ill." The disease gave her this burst of vitality.
Is Sachs actually saying, you know, maybe some diseases are okay if they make you feel better?
He's reporting her experience, the complexity of it. Natasha herself worried that getting cured, going back to just being a regular, perhaps less vibrant 90-year-old, might be just as bad as letting the syphilis progress. It shows how seductive a disease state can be if it offers something perceived as positive vitality, coherence, even pleasure. The patient's experience doesn't always match the medical label.
That's a really challenging idea for medicine. Okay, let's move to the final category Sachs explores. The world of the simple. This is where he looks at patients considered, well, intellectually disabled or retarded, who show surprising strengths elsewhere.
Right, and this really pushes back against defining intelligence or identity just through abstract tests like IQ scores. He talks about Rebecca.
She scored very low on standard tests.
Very low, yes,
Yeah.
labeled moronic. But Sachs found she had this deep hunger for stories, for poetry. She formed strong emotional connections. She wasn't just a set of deficits.
And she had this incredible metaphor for herself, the living carpet.
Yes. She said she felt like a living carpet that needed a design, a pattern, to keep from completely unraveling. Such a poignant image.
What she needed wasn't logic puzzles, it was narrative.
Exactly. Narrative coherence. Story, symbol, art, that's what held her together. And the proof, really, was when she joined a theater group. Sachs observed that on stage, in a role, she became a complete person, poised, fluent, with style.
So performing a story gave her the structure her own abstract mind couldn't. That completely reframes intelligence, doesn't it?
It fundamentally does. Sachs argues that it's the concrete, the art, the music, the story, the lived experience that makes reality feel real, alive, personal. You can achieve mental completion, a form of wholeness, even if abstract thought is impaired. True humanity isn't just about computation.
So we've gone through these fragments: perception, memory, body sense, impulse, narrative. When you pull back and look at all these cases, these losses and excesses, what's the common thread Sachs is tracing?
I think it comes back to that idea of judgment, that essential faculty for navigating the world, for distinguishing what's real from what's not, what matters from what doesn't.
Which conventional neurology focused on mapping functions might miss.
Often ignores, Sachs felt. It focuses on how does vision work, how does memory store data, but maybe not enough on the why it matters for being a person, for making judgments about reality.
Sure. And these stories are a stark reminder of how fragile that sense of self, that reality, truly is, how dependent it is on our physiology.
Incredibly dependent. Sachs brings up the really disturbing case of Donald later in the book, a man who committed a murder while high on PCP, then developed amnesia for the event due to the drug's effects. Lived for years, completely unaware, seemingly reformed.
Yeah.
Then he suffers a head injury, damages his frontal lobes, and bam, the memory of the murder comes flooding back.
Yeah.
Vivid, horrific detail. Locked away by physiology, then unlocked by physiology.
Wow. So our entire moral landscape, our personal history can be rewritten by brain chemistry or injury. The self is malleable, an ongoing process.
Very much an ongoing construction, not some fixed entity.
Yeah.
Which leads to Sachs' ultimate challenge to us, to you listening.
Right.
Think about all these parts of your mind we've touched on: your sight, your memories, that hidden sense of your own body, your ability to follow a story or feel an impulse. If you had to lose one, which one would fundamentally undo your sense of who you are? And maybe more importantly, are you sure you know which part that truly is?